Hi, everyone. Carmen Danisco here for the Launch Network. We got an awesome show. Get retail ready with my friend, co-host, Mr. Jim DeBetta. This guy's got everything happening and all retail info. What's up, Jim, man? Is it early at you? Hey, before I even start, Jim, is there any gas up by your house?
There, for like a day. I went out when I thought it would be like, okay, really, is people really going to freak out? And then I took my daughter Chloe to her acting class. It was we leave like 5-ish, and along the way, lines, empty gas station. I mean, it was like, World War II rationing line. It was crazy. And I'm like, there's just no way this is actually people are going, like, they're doing this, right? They're really hoarding and getting on. So that night at like 11:30, I went with I went with Christian Carmine to a QT, the gas station. And I'm like, oh, there'll be nobody there. 20 minutes online. I'm like, I got to get gas. But after that, like by yesterday, it's almost back to normal. But yeah, it was, I'm like, I'm not the type, people are bringing I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, wow, that's crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. That reminds me, when I went to Woodstock, the lines for gas and food were crazy.
This may have been worse. People freak out. All right, we have a great guest today, somebody that we've known between us for a very long time. She's awesome. But right before we start, I want to mention something, because Carmine, we've laughed about this and it always comes up, but once or twice a year, and that's it, out of the hundreds of messages, text, emails, voicemails that I get and you get from people saying, we love your show. It helps us so much. We can't thank you enough. I've learned everything I need to know. You guys are fun. It's whatever. But once every 6 months, I get a text or an email. And this one broke the mold. This was the worst. But it was the best, because this guy, after saying how empty basically our podcast is, we don't really say anything. We don't really, I guess we're not teaching enough, or we're not doing enough. Never mind, this is on our own time, right? It's volunteer. We don't get paid for this. We're not selling ad revenue. We're just doing this because we think it's helpful to people, right? And then he went on, he didn't make fun of my background, because now it's white and you cannot make fun of just a white background. But he said, you and your crappy shirts or something like that. I was like, I wanted to come on today with the most ripped, dirty, nasty shirt. I'm like, A, nobody watches us. Everyone listens. Number two, we have one of the most listened to podcasts in the Inventor world. I know we do. Our numbers are like tens of thousands of people download our podcast every week. And I'm like, why? I said, why would you come at me like that? And then he was like apologetic, saying, well, I didn't really mean it like that. I mean, it was this whole long tirade about, all this stuff. And I'm like, and he was talking about other stuff, because he apparently he thought I blocked or I deleted a post of his in one of the invention groups. I'm like, I don't even think that's my group. But I said, I never delete or I'm always up for a debate if it's healthy. As long as somebody's not a lunatic, cursing, just being obnoxious, I will debate anything about the world of inventing with anybody. And you know what? The end result is the inventor gets the benefit of that back and forth. I say that all the time. I love people don't have to agree with me. That's fine. But at least people are getting two intelligent viewpoints.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, long story short, I'm not changing a damn thing. I'm going to wear the same thing. I'm not even going to shower next time. I'm just coming on raw. Yeah, I don't even care. Awesome. I'm tired. People, I said, if I put a suit on, it said nothing. Would that be better for you? So anyway, let's get to our guest, because we always have so little time. I hear her. She's laughing in the background. We have Lisa Lloyd, who is a licensing legend. And I've known her for many years. This woman just does not stop. She's all over the place. She's on social media all the time. She's up to no good. And we're going to introduce her right now. So, hey, Lisa, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, this is part of my no good that I'm up to.
Yeah, Lisa, I can't believe you said that.
Right here.
Did you send that email to Jim, Lisa?
Oh my God, how did
I didn't even think of that. And she knew she was going to be on the show. You know what? Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
I knew I'd get a rise. I just didn't realize it would poke him that much. So,
Jim, look how nice Lisa's background is.
Of course, right. It's a little suspicious, right? She's all done up. Her hair looks nice. Little glasses on.
Whoa. I'll send you these.
Oh, even better.
I'm going to send these to both of you, so you guys have something.
I promise I will weather for at least 5 minutes on my next podcast.
Okay, deal.
Done.
I'm gonna do it.
All right,
Oh my
I'll
God.
email you my address. You can send them out. All right, Lisa, look, you've got a great story. We know you've done so much in this industry, and more importantly, you're one of the good, well, can't say good guys. You're one of the good ones.
Please.
You really have helped so many inventors with teaching people, especially how to license and how to get a product realistically out there. We know it is not easy. And you have quite a story. So we know it's a lot to talk about, but if there's a way you can at least give everybody your background and explain how you came to be in this business and how you worked so hard to get to be successful in your licensing endeavors.
Yeah, so the script note version is when I was 23, I had an idea for a barrette, and it was shortly after watching Jemima Edmark be on, I think, 60 Minutes, where she talked about her umpteen millions of dollars that she just made by selling Topsy Tail, which was the thing that turned a ponytail inside out in the DR world. And I was so surprised that someone could make that much. Well, everyone kept asking me how I put my hair up in a French twist. I thought there's got to be a better way. Aha moment comes, the next step is invent, patent. I began manufacturing and selling, and it was just too much for me at that age. So I decided to license it, which was kind of a backdoor failure for me because I felt like I was failing. So, oh, well, I'll just license this thing.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, I don't even remember what I was doing when I was 23. I know, just out of school, I know I was trying to work and stuff, but to conceive of trying to like run a business or a product business from an idea was not conceivable to me. So that alone, for you to take that on, it is bravery right there. But when you realize that you didn't want to do it on your own, how did you know about licensing? How did you learn about it? How did you go about taking the steps?
Anybody who's been in this business for any serious amount of time will remember David Pressman's patent it yourself.
Yes.
And so in the back of the book, not only does he talk about how to patent, he talks about how to license, which was the first time I was exposed to the concept. And in the back of the book, he talked about inventors clubs around the country, which was the first time I learned that there were other people like me. And so there wasn't one here in Arizona. My mother and I co-founded the Inventors Association of Arizona to kick things off, much like the show where I had wonderful guests come in. So I didn't have to know everything. I could just get good guests in, come in and teach us. And it was, I don't know, self-serving in many ways because I picked guests that I wanted to learn from to come in and talk. And I did everything I could as a voracious learner. Back then you had to go to the library if you wanted to learn.
Oh, yes. Internet, what's that? Right?
No, what? Google what? Yeah, my fingers were doing a lot of walking. So I was thumbing through all the periodicals and doing business plans, going to SBA, SBDC, small business development centers to help build business plans. It was very, very different back then. Now I got kicked out when I was 16. A lot of people don't know this. I was a homeless teenager. So I was very resourceful. And when I graduated high school at 17 on my own, working a full-time job, and actually 2 jobs. And then I joined the military. I ended up going in the Navy. And it was shortly after coming out of the Navy that my hair was growing out from being short. And that in between stage that I threw it up in a French twist. And so all of it it was almost like the stars were aligned to set me up for this business. I just didn't know that it was a business because they don't exactly teach it in school.
Wow. Yeah, I knew a lot about you. I didn't know all of those things.
Yeah.
My dad was in the Navy, by the way.
Oh, nice.
We're talking Korean War. This was a few years back.
There's there's my Navy picture up there. That's my boot camp.
Wow. Look at that.
My squad.
That's cool. Yeah. I need some pictures of my background. Yeah. So, and it's amazing how people come about getting to where they've gone. I mean, like you said, you weren't like a full-blown adult. You weren't out there. You weren't in a career, and you just had this idea, and you had the financial means or all this extra time or whatever the case may be, or the benefit, like you said, of having to Google stuff or watch a video or not go to the library to do stuff. I mean, I always tell my kids, I'm like, you guys have it so easy today.
Right.
They complain about how hard school is. I'm like, first of all, we took the same stuff you did, but we had to go to the library. We had to read textbooks. We had to look up stuff. We had to talk to other kids. Today, they're just like in 2 seconds, they get what they need. And so I think it's a lot easier for inventors to at least get educated. That's without question.
Yeah.
But to do what you did, it is a bravery thing to me to know that you were not in a position optimally to do what you did, and you still did it. And so knowing you did that with your first product, how did you approach ultimately the company you licensed with, and how did that go in terms of like negotiating, and how did you handle all of that?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I don't know that apples to apples, it was any harder then than it is now, because the reality is I also had a lot less competition then, because we didn't have the internet. It wasn't the way it is now. Innovation is dramatically faster because of technology today. So it's a much more competitive environment than it was then. So, kind of counterbalances, but I just started looking at stores. To me, common sense was follow the money. Who's going to make money, right? Well, the retailer who sells it. Okay, well, who gives them the product? Where are they getting it from? That's the distributor, the brand. Okay, well, then that's clearly who I want to talk to. And going to the store to find who those brands were was just kind of simple common sense for me. And when you looked at the back of the packaging, there was the name of the company.
Right. People forget that. It's a simple concept overlooked. Just go shopping and see who's out there.
Right. Exactly. And you think that if you're an inventor, if you're solving that problem, you're not done the moment you invent, even if you've got the world's greatest invention. You're solving problems every step of the way on the path to commercialization, and then sometimes even after, to make it more successful. So I just started reaching out. The first company I reached out to was Goody, and got the vice president of marketing on the phone. And she was great and loved it and said, we'll take it. And we were in the middle of sending the contract, the actual contract, all the terms, conditions, everything back and forth. I just got the last draft, had some questions, couldn't get her on the phone. All of a sudden she ghosted me. And come to find out a few weeks later, she finally returned my call and said, oh, Newell Rubbermaid at the time just bought us, and they're Newellizing us. And so I don't know if I'm gonna have a job next week. I can't do this deal. I'm like, no, that means you need to hurry up before you don't have a job.
Yeah, exactly.
She says, I'm sorry, Lisa, it's a great product. You really should keep going, but I can't do this. And then my mother stumbled on, and I was defeated. I was really sad about the whole thing. And then my mom was in Kmart. Remember that store?
Oh my God. There you go. There might be one or two left. I think there's one around here.
Yeah. Sears uses them for like closeouts, which you would even new bar that I didn't know existed. But they had this little tiny brand with two or three SKUs, and it was called Scunsy.
Yes.
She said, give this guy a call. Here's the phone numbers right on the back of the packaging, the 800 number.
Wow.
Because you didn't have the internet, right? So called the number. It was around Christmas time. And as we know, the owners are the only ones that are still working on the holidays. Everybody else is off. So guess what? I got the CEO on the phone. And I said, look, I'm at the time I was finally 25 at that point. I'd been doing it for a couple of years. So I'm 25.
Last year.
I've sold, I've sold last lifetime. I've sold a few hundred of these. I made 500. I've sold about 300 pieces at $10 a piece. It's probably a $2 or $3 item. And if I can do that with nothing, what can you do with it? And that was my pitch. And he said, send it to me. Let's take a look. He called me. He gave me his FedEx number, which I thought was the weirdest thing. What? You're going to trust me with your FedEx number? It's crazy. So I shipped it to him. And the very next day he called me immediately and said, I don't care who you're talking to. Stop. We want to do this. And we had a deal done in about 30 days. I got my first check for $20,000.
Wow.
Ooh,
that is awesome.
I know. And I was only making $13,000 a year on my job. So
I know Carmine is chomping at the bit with some questions, but I have to say, first of all, for anybody that doesn't know, Goody was, a complete monster in the hair accessories world. I actually had tried to approach them on a couple of things for people. I could never get through. So oh my God, they are like the equivalent of like a Target or a Walmart in the retail world in their category. I mean, they were huge. They take up so much shelf space. I mean, you go to any Target, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS. I mean, their stuff is everywhere and was always everywhere. And they were like the Band-Aid for bandages, or, that kind of Coke for soda in that industry. So for you just to get there and that's a lesson for inventors, that I'm always a go for the big ones. I know sometimes
Yeah.
going smaller is certainly the way to go because there's less red tape and there could be less, you know, they might be more hungry, but I've always been a top down guy. I always go for the big thing because I'm like, if I'm going to get that thing there, I want to maximize my opportunity. But then for you to double down and say, hey, and this happens in retail too, Lisa, where the buyer, you have a deal ready to go and the buyer leaves or gets fired or changes categories and you're stuck. You could be doing a deal for a year.
That's
and
right.
all this work. And then literally, and that's why I always get nervous until that purchase order is literally in my hands and it's non-cancelable.
Yeah.
You worry because you know that there's that chance. So that happened to you, but you didn't just give up. You didn't crawl in a corner and cry. I'm sure you cried a little, but you know, you came back and you bounced back and you said, I know this is good. And I've heard from the best of the best that this is a great idea. And you pursued it, you did it. And like you said, in one fell swoop, in one check, you made more money than you made prior the whole year. And at the very least, this is a testament to your efforts, your ability to, without a lot of knowledge, to make it happen. It's realistic for people, for sure. And like you said, the process really isn't the same. The technology makes it easier to gather information and to do business, but pitching companies is pitching companies. Persevering is persevering. Doing those extra things and not getting discouraged and keeping going is such a critical piece to licensing, retail selling, or anything in this business. So, I mean, amazing. It really is.
Yeah, you're right. And I mailed Goody ahead of time. What kicked everything off was when I got the name before calling for the appointment, I mailed them. You saw in this article right here, it's on the cover of the business section in Tucson, Arizona. So, you know, it's not like a huge newspaper or anything like that, but it was a cover feature story. So that gave it some credibility. I included a spreadsheet, the pro forma, showing both basically the balance statement for what our sales were and what we projected. So there was some proof of there's some case study there. There was a case study there and proof of concept that it was retail ready. They just needed to package it and put their brand on it and get it into the stores. And that went a long way to making, I think, a deal happen as fast as it did.
Wow. You know, Lisa, it's funny because sometimes it's better we don't know how hard it is.
Yes.
Product, right? You were just
totally
going. Yeah, you were just going and you were like, this is going to be in the store. It's so great because a lot of times Jim and I, and I'm sure you do too, people are so fearful that someone isn't going to like their product. And they worry about that one person who doesn't, but they never think about the 20 people.
Right. Like the one person who doesn't like my shirt. I'm going to keep going. But look, this business is filled with rejection. There's a lot of no. And you have to, it's hard because it is your baby. But we always say, yeah, you need to be passionate about your product, but you can't be emotional about it because you will make usually the wrong decision and you'll get caught up in how you feel instead of being objective. And whenever I push a product in front of a retailer, I just don't care what is said along the way. As long as that product can make money for the retailer and make money for the inventor, and ultimately I will benefit, and the consumer gets something fun, useful, helpful, that's a win-win-win-win-win, right? So it is, it's just a process. It's a lot of work. And a lot of this business is the mental part, just doing what you did, just staying with it. And you had affirmation that you had something from the best of the best. And if it was sincere, and it certainly sounds like it was, right?
Yeah.
Then how do you even think about giving up at that point when you know you've got something good? It's just, who's going to be the one who's going to fall before me and take it on? And you obviously had that experience. And so that's a great lesson for any inventor.
Yeah. And in hindsight, what it taught me, because at the time I didn't know why I was successful. I couldn't explain it. And people wanted to pay me to consult, which is funny because I'm a girl. I'll give advice for free. This is what we do, right? At 25, hell yeah, I have an opinion. But in my case, I wasn't really sure how to articulate. So I just shared the story over and over. And that was really the beginning. Fast forward now, almost 30 years later, I can tell you to both of your points. Number one, how hard it was when I got interviewed, Carmine, for this particular article. She said, so are you going to do it again? And I said, I'll never have another good idea, but you're not allowed to print that, because I really felt just so lucky with all of it, you know? And it was hard work and it was really scary at times. But the second biggest lesson that I learned was, one of the top biggest lessons that I learned was that if you fall in love with the problem and not the solution, you'll be a better learner and a better solution provider as a result. And if you fall in love with the solution, you get stuck. And I'm sure you've seen it, Jim, 100 times, thousands of times, people submit this product that they're so sure is the best solution. And it really doesn't have a unique selling proposition or competitive advantage that's dramatic enough to give it what that buyer needs to put it on the shelf, to give up that shelf space, right?
And I always tell that to inventors. I said, I have to be able to, I said, I know what the buyers need and want, and they need to make money and sell stuff and turn stuff over. And if they're going to remove something they're currently selling and take a chance, because that's risky, right? Even if something's just selling okay, for them to clear it out and try something new is a huge risk. So you're right. It has to have something special. It's got to be different. It can't be in your mind different, like, oh, mine's a little bit faster, or mine's a little bit more colorful. That's not enough usually to do it. There's got to be something exciting, new, innovative, something that ups the ante on what exists prior to that. And that's whether it's licensing.
Otherwise, they're just swapping sales. They're not increasing sales, they're just swapping sales.
Right. And they need to increase their business, but more importantly, they can't lose business, right? So, all right. So Lisa, tell us, what are you up to now? Like, obviously you're all over the place. I mean, my feed is like Lisa Lloyd. I mean, it's like she's girls everywhere. So like, and that's why a lot of times we've been, messaging and stuff back and forth, because I'm like, man, you're like crazy. You're everywhere. So tell everybody what you're up to. What are you doing? How are you helping people today?
Yeah. So actually I'm not, for the first time in my life, my ADD is not controlling my life. I'm controlling it. And I am in one place. It just is an illusion, Jim, that I'm everywhere. I am doing one thing with one minor exception. I'm still an academic advisor at Arizona State University, working with their School of Entrepreneurship and the School of Engineering to create an innovation program, by the way, with an emphasis on licensing. Nice. It's really small. It's like a few hours a week. The Invention Accelerator, on the other hand, is a new program that I put together. Last year, I exited from a startup where I took my little suitcase of money and took 6 months off. And really, I called you.
Yeah, I remember.
What's the state of the union? Is there a need here? Is there a gap that I can fill? There's no point in me coming back to my first love, which is the independent inventor community, because I have been working with large organizations. Unless there's a need I can fill, just like a competitive product, right? So is there a value proposition there? And after speaking with you and a couple other people, Stephen Key was another one I spent some time on the phone with, and where could I fill a gap or bridge something that wasn't currently being an unmet need? And ended up putting together this program. And the only reason it seems like I'm everywhere is because it's an invitation-only program. You won't find a button on my website. But the best way for me to meet people is to give away as much information as I can, just like you do with this program. I agree. Right. And so I'm putting out as profitable of content as I can possibly deliver. Once a week, I put out a new video, and I'm having free consultation calls pretty much all day, every single day. And in those calls, if it makes sense to introduce the program, I do. If it doesn't, that's okay. They got what they came for, and that's the end of it. And everyone's happy, and testimonials are coming back phenomenal. And people seem to be really happy with the videos. It was really scary to start doing that because I'm not super comfortable. People think that I'm super comfortable doing this. The one-on-one talks are easy, but me like recording a video is so awkward. I don't even want my picture.
I don't care, like me, but I get it. Like if I watch myself back, you're kind of like, oh, but I don't ever mind. Like, I don't feel uncomfortable, I guess, like getting on. It's just, I don't watch it after, so I don't have to worry about what the outcome looks like. Well, because I have people that will tell me clearly. So I'm not worried about that kind of thing. But look, I do see you in my feed, but it's this one thing you're doing. And we all know the value of providing information. And I've had a few people call me out saying, oh, you only post because you want business. I'm like, look, I'm busy. I'm good. I've been doing this 20 something years. Work will find me, because I do provide a lot of information, and people want to trust the people they're working with. And there's a lot of people in our business that just show up and they're experts and they have courses. I could make a course on any subject. Give me a couple of weeks to learn it, and I'll put out a course, because the technology is there to make you look good and prop a lot of people up. But somebody like you, Lisa, who has the experience, who did it old school, who did it with like the whole hard knocks scenario where you had nothing to lose, everything to gain, you went for it, you didn't give up. That alone is worth more than like 95% of people that appear in our business because they haven't actually done it. I just posted about that the other day. I'm like, learn from those who've actually been there.
I saw it and I liked it.
I wrote like, this may sound self-serving, but
Sure.
it's true. It's like people come to me all the time, like, oh, Jim, I work with this company and they said this and they promised that and I got screwed. I'm like, I'm not promising you're going to be successful either, but you have a hell of a lot better shot at doing it with me than you do with whoever that is, because I've done it and I do it every day. And that's what you're doing. You're helping and picking and choosing who you want to help while still giving out a ton of free stuff. But that helps the whole invention world on the whole. And so that's why one of the great reasons we wanted you on here, because you are one of those people. You're one of those few people that really are an asset to our business, not a detriment. And I wish there were more Lisa Lloyds out there because it would make everybody's job easier and just more fun, and that we'd see more successes. And that's what we're all hoping to do.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely. And programs like this too, that make such a difference. And don't you talk to people every day that say, I didn't even know there was a community for inventors?
Oh, all the time.
I didn't know this even existed. I just had an idea.
I mean, all you do have to just Google it one time, but yet people come to me. It's a surprise, it's shocking almost that people just say, I didn't know that there are people that helped inventors. I didn't know this was even a business. I mean, I'm like, but I guess what we think, is sort of common sensey thinking isn't what everyone else thinks.
It's that word inventor. There's just something weird about the word inventor. You think of Einstein with hair out to here, and you have to be a genius or a physicist or something to be qualified as an inventor. So instead they call themselves entrepreneurs, and they end up in the startup community, which is fine if you're going to do a venture.
Yeah, wrong place.
But it still doesn't teach you really the nuts and bolts of innovation.
Yeah. Well,
1,000,000%.
Yeah, we know that. All right. Well,
I'm also working on a new mop. I have a new invention.
Oh, here we go.
I have
I want to see
a direct response company that has agreed to test it.
Really?
And so I'm just waiting on the wheels. I had to learn all about gear ratios. I had to learn. I spent hundreds of hours on YouTube.
That's Carmine stuff. I just want to see I want to see it in a box, and I want to sell it to somebody. You
want to see the video, the short teaser video for it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, if you can figure it out, you can go for it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I have to open it up, so that might take me just 1 second here.
All right. Well, while you do, because this is going to close us up here today.
Okay.
And I want to obviously say thank you very much for being here. We've been trying, to connect more too, and I want to see this thing after this video is over. I got to get more information. This is awesome. But we'll cue it up.
Cool.
Okay, here it oops. Share screen.
See, no one can say that this show is rehearsed, right, Jim?
But look, hey.
No way. I mean,
okay.
Oh, wow.
Pinch out for a bigger view. Let's see. That's got music too.
Wow.
The rollers are spinning in opposite directions.
That's hard to do, Lisa.
Secret sauce right there.
Oh, stop.
Yes, I want one. I'll take two. We got two. There we go. Carmine, you gotta take two.
I love the music.
Right? As I said,
Thank you.
it's got music.
Yeah.
This is fun. Very
Thanks.
cool.
Really cool.
Yep,
So
see,
so the
different.
rollers spin in opposite directions, which mimic going back and forth if you were on your hands and knees with a sponge. There's no batteries, no power cord, no charging. And then the rollers can either be made as reusable or replenishments as a consumable. And you pick the roller for the job to be done. So if you're doing wood floors, wood surfaces, there would be
you just rollers. Swap them out. See,
because there's three. If you're doing a tile floor that's especially got kind of caked on stuff, one of them could be a Brillo and the other two could be sponge. You pick the roller for the job to be done. Sorry,
that's cool.
That is cool.
Thank you.
And
Wow.
it's being tested already. You already got a prototype made.
So the prototype is built with one exception. It's hydroplaning. So I finally found the right wheels so that it on the wet floor, really slippery wet floor, it won't slip anymore. And those will be here in the next few days. And it's finished and it's off to the DR company to test on TV.
Oh, wow. All right. Hey, if you're up at 2 a.m. and you're watching TV, I think that spot's going to pop on. You know that.
I hope so.
And Jim, you just learned a new word, Jim, hydroplaning.
Right. I always thought, no, I know a little about hydroplaning, right? Driving a little too fast in the rain. But I always thought there was a certain speed you had to go before hydroplaning begins. So unless you're mopping at 30 miles an hour. So, although you never, right? Maybe she's on skates or something. I don't know. But it's fun. But now Lisa has done it. So she knows the process and she understands what it takes. And you got to be unique. See, we're sitting there going, wow, that's different. Wow, that's cool. I mean, there's a gazillion mop products out there, but this one, if I'm a buyer or a company, I'm like, like that's different.
Makes sense.
That's unique. I haven't seen anything like that before. Yet people recognize what a mop is. So it's not like you're introducing a whole new product. A lot of times people come to me and say, Jim, I got this idea. No one's ever heard of it. And I'm like, sometimes that's not a good thing. It's cool. But if there's no category for it,
right,
to sell it, it's hard to sell. Like I've had a few things with people. I call up like some of the DMMs or the VPs at retails, and they're like, we don't even have a buyer for this thing, but so we'll try to figure it out. But then it falls by the wayside because they just don't really have a section or a category for it. So, but you're in it. That's everybody at some point mops or cleans their floors, you hope.
And nobody likes it.
And nobody likes it. I mean, I don't mind cleaning, but that's like the last thing I want to do. So if there's an easier way to do it.
Right.
And I don't use like Swiffers and stuff. I'm like, I need real, like something that really clean. I don't know. I mean, I guess I've used one or two, but like that's not my preference, but nobody really wants to do that, right, as like a household thing.
Yeah.
You want to make it fun too.
I know I can't wait to use it myself.
Right. See, that's when you know
it is fun because the rollers spin at a 3-to-1 ratio for the wheels. So they're spinning 3 times, which means when I go over something, it has, because there's 3 rollers, it's gone over that space 27 times versus just my one swipe with a Swiffer.
Wow.
27 you're blowing Jim's mind here.
27 times the cleaning power. So that's a good number. I go the DRTV. They just come with these, like, it's always about big numbers and big words.
Right.
27 times the cleaning power,
Scrubbing bubbles.
Right.
Exactly.
All right, Lisa, drop a couple gems. What takeaways? Little quick bullets. Like, what do people need to know? What's the best thing for them to know? Venting, licensing. What do you got?
I believe people should spend more time on the front end of innovation, which is everything leading up to getting that patent pending. And then you won't spend as much time on the back end with selling or licensing, because when a buyer sees it or a prospective licensee sees it, they say, wow, that they have to have it. If you've invested the right amount of time doing the research, making sure it's a big enough pain for enough people, for example, you fall in love with the problem, not the solution, then you'll continue to iterate on it and come up with a wow solution that causes the buyer to make this space in the store for it, for example, like you were mentioning earlier. So it's really just about more on the front end, fall in love with the problem, not the solution, and invent solutions that are dramatically better than all the competition.
And don't give up. If you have a good idea, keep going. It takes time.
Sometimes, I'm cautious to say that because sometimes you do need to walk away. And
well, if it's not a good idea, you can't validate it. Right. But right. That's why I said with a good product, keep going. Right. Like in your case with the hair, keep going. Somebody important in the industry said it's really good. You don't give up on that. If 10 people say this is crazy, it's ridiculous, no, it's right, then you have to emotionally detach yourself, move on to something else. But if you got a good idea, you have to keep pushing. It takes a while to get in front of the right people, to get a deal done. Deals fall apart. You have to start over. I do this every day with retailers. The best deals I ever got were always 6 months, a year down the road, but I knew the product was worthy. I knew it had a place. I knew people liked it. All those things. When those ingredients are there, you just got to keep pushing.
So can people come to, I know you're interviewing me, but now I have a question. Can people submit a product to you to put in front of buyers to get that feedback, or would it stop at your opinion?
No, I don't.
Perfectly qualified in my opinion, but
Yeah, well, thank you. I typically will, like, again, I always say, well, if you come to me with a VCR, I'm probably going to push back on you a little bit, right? But I usually don't necessarily care what I feel, it's what the buyers think. But I'll look for certain elements, like, is the pricing good? Is the packaging right? I'm looking for certain elements, just basics, that where I could say, listen, this is a good thing, but if we did this, it would be a great thing to show the buyers, because I know what they want. But yes, I can often just look at something and say, it looks retail ready. And that's more important than me. There are a lot of things I come to me, I just don't like them for me. I'm like, I would never want that, but I have to be objective and say, it doesn't matter if I like it, will millions of others like it? And will the retailers like it? And that's what matters. So yeah, I sort of take a hybrid approach to assessing stuff.
Yeah.
So my last piece of advice then for your audience would be, don't wait until you've developed it to bring it to Jim to get his opinion. As soon as you have the idea, fly it past him. Because
for all of us, right? I mean, at least the same thing. People come to you with concepts.
Yeah, I don't do retail. So like, if someone
but licensing is the same thing. People, if we just got them in the early part,
days,
we could help them save a lot of money.
Front end.
Front end stuff.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much. Absolutely. Really, this has been really, really great.
Thank you. And thank you too, Carmine.
Excellent, Lisa. How can they get in touch with you if they need to?
You can go to lloydmarketinggroup.com or the inventionaccelerator.com. I have a free 1-hour course there on how to invent, patent, and license specifically. So either way, you can book a free call with me on lloydmarketinggroup.com or the inventionaccelerator.com.
Awesome. That's great. Very cool. All right, all you guys out there, you heard it straight here. We thank you for listening in today. I thank Lisa Lloyd for stopping by. It's been a great show. For Carmine Disco, Mr. Jim DeBetta, we thank you for listening. We will catch you next time on Get Retail Ready. You all take care.